Hello, beautiful people. Today's video is about two superpowers that we all have as human beings inside of us. The first one is authenticity. Authenticity is very simple, very powerful, though. And from one angle, it could look like a bloody sword, and from another angle, it could look like flapping butterfly wings. Very delicate. And it's really the absence of fear, the destroyer of victimhood inside of us. Um, that's authenticity at its essence. The other superpower is vulnerability. Vulnerability it could be anything, to be honest. A lot of people think of vulnerability as an emotional expression, and sometimes it can be that. Um, it depends. Eye gaze can be vulnerable. A smile can be vulnerable. Um, letting someone else be right could be vulnerable. Uh, doing a tantric practice could be vulnerable. Starting your own business could be vulnerable. Uh, it really comes down to going out of your comfort zone, right? So going out of that place of safety out into the unknown where growth can happen, where expansion can happen, where anything can happen. That's vulnerability. And it can happen in a most, ephemeral way, just for a moment, half a second, or it could be something very lasting, very powerful, and long. Um, and I would say you know, if authenticity is the absence of all fear, vulnerability is the absence of control. It's the destroyer of isolation. Um, and together, they kind of go hand in hand. It's hard to be vulnerable without authenticity. You might be able to be a little bit of vulnerable, but you're still controlling, basically. You're trying to mitigate uh, what happens. And if you're not authentic with yourself so that you can acknowledge these things, then it's hard to be vulnerable. Um, Now, how do those apply with Tantra? I feel that Tantra is a very powerful path. If you want to do it just in like a workshop or a 2 hour cacao ceremony, or if you want to make it your entire life, it has the potential uh, to be powerful on either end. Just how deep do you want to go with it? Like how far do you want to go? Um, and so, my opinion, there's a lot of vulnerability and authenticity needed for tantra. It's in everything. It's so one really simple way to exhibit that is through questions. These are questions you could ask your lover, or you can ask yourself. I think that's where true authenticity starts from, is being able to admit to yourself the things that seem bad, odd, wrong. You know, everything is permissible in the mind, uh, and if you can't do that with yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to be authentic with another person. Almost impossible. And it's interesting how, we're so programmed to worry about what's culturally accepted or religiously or parentally, all these different imaginary rules that we're worried about what other people think, that we can't even just drop in and be honest with ourselves. It's a practice. It's not something a lot of people just are, So I think part of this process, the power of Tantra, is learning to be authentic with yourself. So then you can be authentic and vulnerable with other people, especially with someone that you cherish and love and want to connect with in, romantic, sexual, intellectual way. So the questions that I have, and there's three, and it may be helpful to write these down. Sometimes writing stuff down by hand gives a lot of clarity. It also triggers all these awesome neurological things in your head. And I would ask one of these questions, throughout the day. You can change them up, or you can ask just the one question, and the next day ask one question, the next day ask another question. It's up to you. But I recommend doing this at least 5 or 10 times a day. Just drop in. Doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be detailed. It's just really the practice of learning to inquire yourself, be authentic. And, there may be vulnerability involved. It depends on how you are, how far your comfort zone is expanded already before watching this video. So first question to ask yourself is, what am I most afraid of in sex? Just let that really hit you when you ask it. Feel it. And whatever comes, practice that authenticity and vulnerability and admit it to yourself, write it down. You may find that there's a freedom in doing that. You may actually feel it. The next question is, what is a sexual fantasy of mine? It could be something that, maybe it's a sexual fantasy that's very strong for you, that you have often. It's recurring, or it just holds more weight inside of you than the other ones. And if you don't have fantasies, that's okay. Some of us don't. Think about what it feels like when you're having some sort of sexual experience. The sensations of it, the emotions of it, and describe them in detail to yourself. Within reason. You don't have to overachieve on this. Again, it's more about doing a daily practice to get into the rhythm of it, so then it just becomes part of who you are. And then the last question, and this is a fun one. Well, they're all fun. Is, what is a peak sexual experience you've had? This could be anything. Could be last night by yourself, with another person, with a group of people, while you're asleep, watching TV, whatever you want, whatever comes to you. There's no right or wrong. Just go back. And, if you find yourself having a difficult time with authenticity and the vulnerability, just see if you can push yourself just a little bit into it. Doesn't always have to be headstrong all the way, 100% or nothing. See if you can just go a little bit and then relax into that. Just, a little bit and then relax into it. I like to think of it as, you're driving forward a little bit and then just relax. Like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy what I'm feeling. Kind of like getting into a hot jacuzzi. And that's it. I'm curious if you want to talk about it, if you want to tell me your experience, feel free to comment on this video, or you can message me directly, call me, whatever you want.